why not me? Why not now? Why can't I say yes to this? Why can't I jump and be courageous and give it a crack?
This series of Sportish is powered by Play Well, a movement from the Australian Sports Commission that's about making sure everyone has a place in sport.
Ash Barty, welcome to Sportish.
Thanks for having me.
Ash, you were kind of always athletic. So, even as like a 4-year-old, you were keen to play something that wasn't netball. What was your family looking for when they found the West Brisbane Tennis Centre?
Yeah, I think I was just a Queensland kid. I grew up outside. We were climbing trees. Mum and dad were both golfers, so I always had a golf club in my hand. My sisters played netball. Mum played netball. I was footy at school. Pretty much anything but all I can get my hands on, I wanted to be involved. And my first, I think, interest in the sport was actually hockey, driving past a hockey field to go to my sister's netball on a Saturday morning. And I asked Mum if we could play hockey, and she's like, I'm sure about that one. And I said, well, I'll try tennis. Like, we drive past a tennis court as well, so let's try that one. And asked a family friend if she knew anybody, knew any coaches, knew any clubs that we could kind of try it out and immerse ourselves. I mean, as a 4-year-old, I was probably a little bit young. Jim, who we stumbled across at West Brisbane Tennis Centre, let me have a trial. But his first kind of reaction was like, oh, we're waiting until they're 5 or 6. And he really encouraged playing different sports to get that skill set to be able to throw, jump, catch, whatever it may be. But he let me have a tryout when I was back every week.
I think that's like such a common experience because I know, Georgie, that's how you found softball.
Absolutely.
There was the local
thing down exactly, and we drove past it, and the parents went, that looks easy and convenient.
You've got multiple children? Just do what you can.
Yeah, I mean, and for me, there was something just really appealing about Jim and Robbie, his brother. It was their family house as well. It was up at the top of the hill. They had 5 tennis courts and beautiful big poincianas and jacaranda trees as well. They had, a little bit of poultry on there as well. So you had kind of chickens, dogs, animals running around everywhere. And it looked inviting, it looked welcoming. And I have so many, just thinking back now, I have so many fond memories of those early moments, and very few of them had much to do with what was happening on the tennis court.
Your dad had to convince Jim Joyce to take you on, and it was the start of a long coaching relationship and a lifelong friendship that continues today. What was it about Jim Centre and also his coaching approach that was clearly so effective for you?
I think Jim always spoke to me like an adult. He spoke to me like a real person. I never felt like he was trying to be super kiddie with me, and he's very honest. And I remember the first time that I was on the court, he always called me Asho. That was just his nickname for me, and he was very honest with me. He was also became like a father figure very quickly because it wasn't just about the tennis. It was about the values of life, respecting him, respecting the courts, respecting your opponent, respecting the environment. And I just felt really at ease when communicating with him. That kind of old school approach where he'd wrap his arm around me and say, come on, mate, this is how we do it. We'll do it together sort of thing.
It's an incredible first exposure to what sport can be and how powerful, I think, and informative and foundational, I should say, in terms of creating values as a child. Also, your parents, Robert and Josie, both had their own very different relationships with sport as well. What impact do you feel like they had on how sport was introduced to you and your siblings?
Yeah, I think mum was sort of the social athlete of the family. Athlete just because she's athletic. Still plays golf now. Like she grew up as one of 6. All learned how to play golf. That was kind of the sport that they played in their family. And she enjoyed it for what it was, but never had that competitive instinct or that drive or that almost that little bit of competitive mongrel and wedge to try and get to that next level. That just wasn't in her makeup. Whereas Dad is very competitive. He was a Australian junior captain in golf when he was younger, and his father had pushed him right to the brink and over the brink. So I think having the 2 different experiences really, I suppose I was sort of the lucky product of that end, where I had the soft side of mum, the compassionate side, but then I had the harder side in Dad that understood what elite sport was like. But from his experience, he learnt that pushing wasn't good.
Yeah.
So he learnt that even though he could advise and guide and help me and wrap his arm around me, He was never going to push and never did. Neither of my parents did. So I was very lucky to have that experience from both of them, where it was just an environment that was nurturing, that was more about finding my curiosities to pushing me into a corner or pushing me into a certain part of the sport.
We know that parents play a huge role in their children's sport, but it can range from being on the sidelines and driving them everywhere to being really involved. How involved did your parents get in your sporting career?
I think they were super involved as mum and dad, and that was it. Just thinking back, they never once stood on the court when I was having a lesson. For me, it was like I'd walk through the gate with Jim, and that was my time with Jim. They had full trust in him for his methods, for his values. I knew that I was never, not that I would try and get away with anything, or maybe I would try when I was a kid, but I was going to be getting the same message from Jim as I would from mum and dad at home. And I think that was really important for me to understand where the boundaries were, to be able to have proper conversations with him. But, you know, when we would have lessons on court 4, that was always the court that Jim would coach on. They'd go and sit up on the top hut and under the jacaranda trees, and it was often chilly for whatever reason at that tennis centre. Mum would always have a blanket over her knees, sitting on the chair. Like she just watched and enjoyed. And, you know, I'd come off the court and they would ask if I had fun. They would ask what we practiced today. And that was the extent of it. That was about it.
I think so often when parents want their kids to be great at sport, they start to get too involved. It sounds like your parents had a really beautiful mix of both. What does that actually look like for parents who maybe have aspirations for their children, which they may or may not have? What does that actually look like tangibly?
Yeah, I always just remember it being fun and being light. You know, and as a kid, for me, I fell in love with tennis for the competitive nature, but also for the fact that we could play. It was creative. You were curious on the court. There were so many different ways that I could try hit a tennis ball. And I think for mum and dad, they really saw that I loved that part about the sport. So when they were asking about how my match was or how my day was or how my lesson was, it was really based around the things that I loved about it. It wasn't, did you win? That was never a question that was ever asked because it doesn't matter. Your kid genuinely does not matter. But what did you learn today? Did you try a new shot? Did you try something different on the court? Like that was all based around curiosity and learning. And I think those are kind of the memories that I have from both mum and dad. Yeah, of course, when I would offer the results, whether they were good or bad, or many times I come off the court in tears, they wrapped their arm around me and were empathetic.
Yeah.
But then it's also pick yourself up, dust yourself off, let's go again, go back next week, try again.
Ash, when you weren't playing tennis, what else were you playing?
What weren't you playing? I played everything. Like golf was probably my biggest hobby outside of tennis. And as a stupid child, I would literally get my little driver, cut down driver in the front lawn at home, and we had a park about 60 centimetres away from mum's front lawn. I'd try and hit onto the kind of slide parks. So good. Houses on both sides, trees on both sides. Nothing was ever broken. Is the on me 90s in the chilly. And it was just go outside and play. You know, I'd be chipping over the little wooden poles. I just would be playing kind of anything and play tackle footy with the neighbours next door. I'd go to school and we'd be playing soccer. When my sisters would go to netball, I would still try and play netball. But it was genuinely, I couldn't wrap my head around it. Love to watch it, cannot play it. Can't stay still with the ball. But I kind of played everything. Swam school, did school carnival, shot put. Like I just wanted to be involved in every the athletic I could be.
You were just super active.
Just super active, yeah. Just Queenslander outside.
As it should be. So you turned pro at the age of 13 and were playing at the Junior Australian Open at 14. So young. When tennis great Yvonne Goolagong came up to you after that match and simply said, I love the way you play, what do you feel like was the impact of those words on you, and what does that look like for you throughout your career?
I think they were more important because I lost the match. I can remember it vividly. Court 7, I played Lauren Davis. Like I can picture that moment so clearly because I remember the feeling before the match as well. I was so nervous and I felt like this was the biggest moment of my entire life. I felt like the whole world was dependent on the result of this match. And at that time, I probably didn't really appreciate the impact of Yvonne's career. I never got to watch her play. But I think after that moment, I was I was curious about her career. I was curious about her path and the fact that she was here. Why is she here watching junior tennis now? Like, what's she doing? So I think being able to have that conversation and build that relationship from that moment was really pivotal, because it was also after a crushing loss for a young girl. Like, I felt like the world was collapsing on me, and she just wanted to wrap her arm around and said, how good was that? So it was, really, really important moment.
By the age of 18, you'd had some successes, but you were in need of a break, which is completely understandable because
I get that.
You've had a career for such a long time already. At that point, many of us, we would have booked a resort on a tropical island and just put our feet up and said, let's go to be here for a while now. But that's almost exactly the opposite of what you did. You came back to Brisbane and you signed on to be part of the inaugural season of the Women's Big Bash League, and you signed on with the Brisbane Heat. What did you learn about sport and about yourself during that period of time?
Yeah, I kind of had the first 6 months off, I suppose, when in my sabbatical. Now, looking back, I can call it a sabbatical. I actually went back and coached with Jim. And then through a physio that I'd met in tennis, she had then gone to cricket and said, hey, this WBBL is starting. Do you want to come down and kind of meet a few of the girls? I said, yeah, no problem. I'll come down. And she said, if you have a cricket bat, bring one. God, I don't have a cricket bat. They'll come along.
I'll bring you a tennis racket.
And I literally arrived up with a little duffel bag over the side, and what I thought was just coming to kind of meet the girls. They were like, oh, here, have a bat and chuck a helmet on, go into nets. And I've never been in a net in my life. I only down the side of our house. I had mum bowling to me on the bumpy backyard. And it sort of turned into a trial without me really realising. And it was that moment where I thought, you know what, let's just say yes. An opportunity has opened up. Why not? And probably one of the best decisions of my life because of the relationships I was able to build, the people that I met, and almost really opened my eyes to what sport was like when it wasn't elite. Because at that time, women's cricket was still very much set in professional. You had girls that were doing 12-hour nursing shifts coming straight to training. Like, it was a real whack in the face of perspective of what sport is like for the majority, I suppose, when you're not in that elite professional tier.
I love that perspective that you had around saying yes and just going for it. Tell us about your proudest day as a cricketer, not just as a cricketer, but as a club cricketer.
Oh, my proudest day, without a doubt, was when I made 100 in a T20 clubby game. Literally just at Graceful, just on our little oval. And it was just something about that brought people together. And all I wanted to do as a 19-year-old was go home and tell my dad that I'd made 100. Like, he played cricket as well growing up, and, you know, meaningless. There's probably not even a record of it. But for me and for us, for Westies, for kind of the club that I was playing for, it was just such a great day. And it's funny that those are the moments when it's about connecting with people. I don't really remember many of the shots that I would have played or how the game went otherwise, but it was the emotional connection with being able to tell the ones that you love, or share that story with them, share that moment. There's something about sport that just brings people together, and in the hard moments and in the euphoric moments. But that was one of the best days.
You returned to tennis in 2016, and after that moment at Wimbledon in 2018, where you lost to Kasatkina, you took your game to an entirely new level. What changed in the second coming of Ash Barty?
I think that was my rock bottom. After that match against Kasatkina, it was the most embarrassed I'd felt about myself on tennis court, because of the way that I behaved towards the people that loved me and had invested so much energy and knowledge and time into me. And then that was for the whole world to see. And I'll never forget that night after that match. My coach, Craig Tyser, I didn't see him off the court. He was obviously seeing red and fuming. And we didn't see each other that afternoon or that evening. And then he flew back to Australia the next day. And I literally remember sitting on my bed that night crying into my now husband's arms and saying, I have ruined everything. For one outburst, for one moment, I've ruined this whole relationship, this whole journey that we've been on. And it's an absolute testament to Ty's, because he was the one who then, when we got back to Australia, said, right, we've had time to breathe. Let's debrief. Where can we get better? He said, I can't help you with this side. This is where we need someone else to come in and help us. And that was the introduction of Ben Pro into my life. And A couple of weeks later down, and I met Crowie, had a 6-hour session with him on the couch. Like, it was just that month around that match was probably the most important month in my life for my tennis development, but also my personal growth in understanding what I wanted as a human, who I was as a human. I felt like I tried to search for that before when I'd had a break, because I felt like my identity was too connected to tennis. So, and that, it was just a really, really important period for me to learn and grow both on the tennis court and off the tennis court.
I want to ask you more about working with Ben Crowe and also that kind of mindset in competitive sport. But can you just, what I find so fascinating is in my body, I could feel that embarrassment and that devastation and that sickening feeling when you've had something not pan out the way that you hope it to be. Can you just talk a little bit more about that and what that felt like for you?
Yeah, I think for me it may be because it's devastating. And when you're in the public eye, it feels so consuming. It feels like there's this bubble that is just drowning you. And I am very much of the personality that I love to do things well. I love to do things to the best of my ability and be proud of the way that I conduct myself, and be proud of the way that I hold to my values, that my mum and dad, that Jim instilled in me. And that day I wasn't proud. And I think that was what hurt me the most, not the actual loss of the tennis match. You can forget a tennis match and move on, have an opportunity the next week. But I felt like I owed it to myself, I owed it to my team to not be remembered for a poor outburst of attitude. And that was what was really eating in me. So I think there was a really big emphasis on learning and growing to just become better for me. And then it's funny when sometimes you can dive into yourself, how it can help the things you do. Yes. So when you become a better human, I then became a better tennis player. It was the human first, the tennis player second.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about the phrase lighten up or tighten up and how that works for you both on the tennis court and in life itself?
Yeah, I think there was a phrase that Crowie spoke a lot about. And for me, essentially, how I see it, it was in a stressful moment, you can either really lighten up, look up, smile, enjoy, understand that this moment is an opportunity. This is, how cool is this? And not be fearful of the opportunity or fearful of the occasion. A very simple thing that I started doing in my career was when I would walk out onto an arena, 15,000 people, amazing, but it's also nerve-wracking. To lighten up, I would look up and smile. I never looked down, never tried to shut it out. I would look up, take it in and smile and go, okay, how cool is this? I'm not going to get to do this for my entire life. So let's really appreciate this moment and remember that this is just an incredible opportunity. So let's lighten up, have fun with it instead of tightening up and feeling like you're trying to hide or just kind of get through it.
I love that perspective as well that you have, because I think it's so easy to go into the seriousness of that moment where there's 15,000 people watching you, a Grand Slam title is on the line. But even in community sports, there's so much focus on performance, perhaps what the competitor did wrong, the shots they missed. What can parents and coaches do to adopt more of that positive approach that you and obviously Crowie have worked on for so long?
Yeah, I think it's about being present. It's almost being really grateful to be involved in the opportunity. And one of my happiest memories on the tennis court was the Australian Open final. It was the first time in my life that my mum, my dad, my two sisters and my husband had watched me play live together. The very first time. And yeah, it was like it was not about the tennis match. It was about we got to share that occasion together. Like, we got to share that. And it was an electric atmosphere. It was unbelievable. One of the best I've ever played in front of in my entire life. But I feel like we had to earn that right. But when we got there, it was enjoying it. So I think for mum and dad as well, and my coaches, Jim was there, Jadson Stoltenberg, one of my other coaches, and Ty's, everyone was there together. And I think it was just that little moment where we sat back and went, this is really cool. Yeah. Like, we've been on this journey together to now appreciate this moment, and that can flow all the way back to kind of the first time your child plays a competitive match, the first time they try something new they try something for the first time, the first soccer match, the first cricket match, the first time they pick up a tennis racket or they jump in the pool. It doesn't matter what it is. I think being present in that moment and going, this is amazing. This is just so cool. Let's just breathe this in. Let's just soak it in and remember the moment for what it is and not for what the result may be.
Yeah, and to that end, there's an aspect of needing the physical skills, but you also need to have the right mindset when you're playing a competitive sport.
Oh, absolutely. I think I'm a big believer in learning how to do something well and to the best of your ability, but what that ability is so irrelevant. It doesn't matter whether you're a clubby, you play for your state, you play for Australia, you're elite. It really doesn't matter because everyone has been on a journey to get to the very best of what their capabilities are. And that's something to be celebrated. And I really do think my sisters both played sport, not at an elite level, but they loved it. And they have really happy memories and happy connections with the sport that they played. And they're athletic. Yes, they've got their own careers now that are not in sport, but I think it's just every athletic ability needs and deserves to be celebrated.
And it's that almost lifelong connection to sport that you can develop at whatever level to whatever ability. But you retired after winning the Australian Open in 2022 alongside your wins in Roland Garros in 2019 and Wimbledon in 2021. You obviously moved away from the competitive aspect of sport, but you continue that connection. You then set up the Ash Barty Foundation, which is focused on creating access and opportunity for kids when it comes to education and sport. What have you seen through that work and with the foundation when it comes to the impact of sport and kids?
I think probably one of my most profound moments with the foundation was actually when we were up in Uluru. And, a lot of these kids, we went up there with literally a bag of rackets, some mini nets. They didn't have a court. You literally put on the red dust with Uluru in the background. Wow. And that was one of the moments where I said, this for me is so amazing. But for the kids, all I remember is a massive smile.
Yeah.
And I said, that's what it's about. If one of these kids falls in love with tennis, that's incredible.
Amazing.
If none of them do, it doesn't matter. Yeah. But that moment, for me, it was a memory that's just etched into my brain, burnt in there. I'll never, ever forget it. And I hope it was the same for them because it was a moment of opportunity where they could try something new. They could fall in love with something new. But it was almost the possibility of discovering that their dreams aren't far-fetched. If you can kind of see it, you can be it. You can dream it, you can believe it. It's just sort of all manifesting that really positive outlook on life as to what could be. And, something that I spoke with Crowley a lot about is why not me? Why not now? Why can't I say yes to this? Why can't I jump and be courageous and give it a crack? And if I fall over and don't quite get there, it's okay. Yeah. Pick yourself back up and try again.
Yeah, have a big swing.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really important message as well, because we know that kids are not trying sports necessarily because they feel like they're being watched and perceived. And I think,
that's a feeling that I remember having as a young teenage girl, is being fearful of the result, fearful of judgment of others, fearful of how I looked on the court. They're fearful of so many things where in amongst all of that fear, I forgot to be excited. I forgot to play the game that I loved.
You now have a very full life. You've got 2 beautiful kids. You're married to Gary. You have many nieces and a nephew, and they all have their own relationships with many dogs.
And many dogs.
Yes, of course. Can't forget that. Yeah, as important. What do you see when you look out on the tennis court now when you're watching your nieces and nephew play?
I think I'm like, here we go again. I think maybe mum and dad think that as well. But what I love is that they love the sport. And my eldest niece, Lucy, remembers me playing. My nephew, Oscar, remembers a little bit. But my 2 younger nieces, Libby and Gabby, had no idea they even played the sport. And they started playing because their cousins did. And because, their mums would go and watch. Auntie Ash would come and watch. And I just love to watch them play. The way of learning the game is different now to how Sarah, Ali and I, my two sisters, learn. but I just love to watch them play, and I love the fact that they've got a massive smile on their face the whole time.
When you go and watch them play, do you get side eyes from other parents?
Oh, absolutely.
I think everyone's like, hang on a second.
I actually think I'm like, oh, those kind of poor kids are going to get connected to my tennis life.
Yeah.
Which is why I also love to take a step back. You know, and Luci, my oldest niece, she can play and rally now. And she often asks me to play. I'm like, yeah, babe, I'll always play with you, but I'll never initiate that. I always want her to ask me. And I'll always make myself available if I can. But I want her to be brave enough, and I want her to be courageous enough to ask people for help, to ask people to enjoy it with her. We will always be a massive tennis family, but the kids also play other sports at school, which I love as well.
So I think it's a really important point to emphasise. You're a Wimbledon champion, an Australian Open champion, and you sit on the side of the court and don't give any of your nieces and nephew any pointers about tennis unless they ask.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we actually, before West Brisbane Tennis Centre, before Jim's club was bulldozed just recently, we went out there one more time. I think it was for Lucy's 7th birthday. She wanted to have a tennis birthday. I was like, all right, I know just the place. So we went out, and with 3 of her friends, I kind of took them through a lesson. And one of Lucy's friends asked her, he said, is your Auntie Ash, is she good enough to coach? Like, can she be out? And without a shadow of a doubt,
There's a right.
Luce had said, yeah, like, she's okay for now. I was like,
She'll do.
I love it because it's just Auntie Ash.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's what I love to do. I want to be the fun auntie with them. And yeah, I really enjoy it.
Your children are only small. Your oldest is 2 and you've got a little baby. How do you think you and your husband will support them to be active and healthy and play sport?
I can't wait. I'm so excited. Already our son Hayden is so sporty. He's got a golf club in his hand every day. He's got a tennis racket. Yesterday, a cricket bat almost went through the TV Nick room. Like we're going to run out of days in the week for him to play sport. And that's something that really excites me because I'm thinking, Gary, my husband, is very sporty. I said, we're going to have all of these different ways to connect with him. He rides his bike, he throws, he jumps. He's just learning all of the different skills. And I can't wait to see what he falls in love with. Like, I just can't wait to see what he chooses.
I love that sense of curiosity.
Yeah. I mean, for kids, it's all about discovering what they like, discovering what they're good at as well. I think there's always going to be a tendency with that interest if they're good at a skill or they have the ability to play the sport well. But yeah, I'm excited.
Ash, what advice do you have for parents who have sporty kids who are wanting to excel?
I think it's enjoy the journey, the ups and downs, everything that happens in between, and just let them flourish. Let them have fun with it. Let them make mistakes. Let them pick themselves up and learn from it. But most importantly, let them have fun. Really let them go out there and enjoy it.
I think that's a really important point because I think a lot of people think they need to control or really guide their kids. And it's like, no, if your kid's going to be an exceptional athlete, they will find their way to that. But in the meantime, allow them to enjoy it.
Yeah, I think be mum and dad or be the parents, be the guardian, whatever your role is, unless you're the role of the coach, then it's not your place to coach. And I'm a big believer in that. As mum and dad took me to West Brisbane Tennis Centre to be coached by Jim. They didn't take me there to watch him coach me and for them to then interfere. They took me there to be coached by Jim and to learn the sport of tennis with him. And I think for me then it was a very black and white. I knew that if I had a tennis question, I'd go to Jim. I knew that if I had a mum and dad question, I go to mum and dad. Sometimes I wanted the opposite answer, so I go to Gaffer. Fair enough. But I knew that I was going to get a really consistent message from both of them. And I think it was just know your role and kind of stay in your lane as well.
What does active living look like for you today?
Waking up first thing and going for a walk with the dogs, pushing the pram up the hills. That's brutal. It is brutal. Thankfully, the dogs pull me up, great hill, but then also pull down, which is not helpful. But And then I think it's about it's just being outside, being happy, being healthy, being active in any way, whether it's, going for a walk or riding a bike or getting to the gym. Sometimes it's only 15 minutes a day. Sometimes I can find an hour, of whatever it looks like may be different each day. But I think really the emphasis on finding a moment to be active was really important.
Did you have to make an adjustment since you've retired about what actually moving your body looks like? Because I just know that I was like, if I don't train 7 hours a day, then what's the point of doing anything?
Yeah.
Did you have to make that mental adjustment from performing to?
Yeah, I did. I think I always had a really nice balance of being able to train when I was at work, train at tennis, and then when I come home, I'd still walk the dogs and I'd still be able to live that Ash Barty the person, not Ash Barty the athlete. But now it was almost, I didn't feel like I had a void to fill, but it was certainly when I had time to train. If I'm on a stationary bike, I still wanted to try and, what did I get last time? Yeah, try and beat that. So there's still that, okay. And for me, the way that I always cleared my head was exercising. The way that I still clear my head is exercising. So if I can find 15, 20 minutes, half an hour, that's the time where I feel like I can improve my mental health, my physical health. But now it's kind of in that really nice phase where it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I run 3 kilometers. It doesn't matter if I run 5 kilometers, because it's okay. Whatever I'm able to do today is okay. That's what kind of I was able to achieve. And softening that was an adjustment, but a really nice one.
You've clearly been competitive from a super young age, right? What does that competitive outlet look like for you now? Like, are you just brutal on like Mario Kart, or like, do you have something that you can channel that energy into, or you just find that that's kind of naturally dissipated?
It's kind of naturally weaned off a little bit, but I think I was always that annoying kid that was super competitive, just not in a bad, well, I wasn't bad. I was probably irritating to my sisters and friends, but I always felt like it was really healthy where it never crossed the line. So even now, like, I can be competitive with myself without competing with others. I can get
a great lesson that you've learned. I have not learned that yet. I don't think.
I can find that competitive outlet, trying to better my run time or something like that, instead of trying to beat someone. Although once my nieces and nephew are old enough to play tennis, they won't be beat. That's something I'm not going to let them win.
I don't want to dare that.
Yeah. So, Lewis is just getting ready to kind of get into some fixtures, so I've got to teach her how to score. And
you also need to teach her how to lose.
Absolutely. You've all been there, babe. We got to do it.
How much has golf been a part of your life? You spoke about hitting that ball across the cul-de-sac and narrowly missing windows. It's almost like that's played a parallel role for you in terms of sport and sports pursuits as you've gone through.
Yeah, I think probably from a pure passion, sport is probably my biggest passion. It's probably the sport that I watch the most, that I certainly play the most now. Not that I've played in the last 12 months or so, but it always felt for me, it was what connected me with mum and dad. It was what connected me with my family. My uncles all play, scratch golfers. Mum was single figure handicapped. Dad was obviously very good. I met my husband at the golf course. For me, that's my hobby. That's kind of the way that I connect with people through sport. Because it sounds strange, but I don't have many friends that play tennis, because it was that elite competitive environment. My mates that play tennis live on the other side of the world. I don't have anyone that I can just call up and go, hey, do you want to go for a hit at tennis?
We're available if that goes.
Yeah. And to be fair, it was work for me, and it's kind of, unless it's with my nieces and nephew, I couldn't think of it even worse.
Yeah.
And going out for a social hit of tennis.
Pickleball?
Yeah, I mean, pickle, it's different. Like, I quite like it. But yeah, I don't know. It's a strange one. So for me, golf was always the sport that I played for fun. Even though tennis was fun, it was my job. Yeah, and I loved it, and I had fun playing, but I didn't play for fun. Yeah, if that makes sense. Yeah,
totally. So the Australian Sports Commission's Play Well strategy is all about driving that connection and inclusivity and participation in sport. Are there any programs or ideas or values that you think that we need to refine more in Australian sport and to I guess, help create that environment that all of those things can come into it?
Yeah, it's a tricky one because I think each family is different, each child is different, everyone, the access is different. Their ability to get to clubs or to play at school or to play on the weekends is different for every family. So I think it's just trying to be as accessible as possible, offering kids the opportunity to try different sports while they're at school, because obviously that's a time where they are in one place 5 days a week. That's their routine. But then it's also, encouraging kids, whether it's with financial assistance to actually get into sport in clubland on the weekends, or it's a really delicate one because I think there are so many different ways that you could have a positive impact, but nothing comes for free, nothing's cheap. Like, I think it's finding a balance of being able to assist people and give them that access without just making it free for all, because that's not sustainable either.
Ash, your foundation is so obviously important to you. What are you hoping to achieve with the foundation?
I think the foundation for me was always that passion project that I wanted to bring into my life after I'd finished playing tennis, because I wanted to genuinely be a part of it. I didn't want to just throw my name to it and kind of had no idea what was going on, or no impact or no investment in the projects. And I think the Ash Barty Foundation, essentially all we're trying to do is use education and sport, which I believe are two of the most important pillars, certainly in my life, but in young kids' lives, use sport and education as vehicles to open up the possibilities of dreams. And I really do think that it shouldn't matter whether you're city, your beach, your bush, doesn't matter where you are in Australia. We have a very, very big nation. And I think that kids all around our nation should have the access to discover what their dreams are. Sometimes all you need is one racket and a ball. Sometimes all you need is one footy. Sometimes all you need is one person to come and talk to you about their career in nursing, in teaching, and whatever it is, to spark that, almost spark that curiosity in a child's brain to go, maybe I might like to do that. And I think being able to offer that is just something that lights me up, because I go back to that trip that I took to Uluru and those kids and massive smiles on their faces. That was such a happy day for me, and it was an hour of our time, really not a lot of time to create a core memory. And I just hope that through the foundation, I had no idea where we'll get to. I kind of don't know, but that's what excites me as well, because the possibilities are infinite, they're endless. We get to have fun with that and bringing that joy and that curiosity and that creativity to kids all around the nation.
Ash, they always say don't meet your idols, but I think, Georgie, you'd attest that meeting Ash is exactly what we imagined it to be, and even more. Like, you are just an absolute inspiration, and it's been such a pleasure to be with you today.
I love it.
This series of Sportish is powered by the Australian Sports Commission's Play Well strategy. Play Well is about creating fun and inclusive sporting experiences for all Australians, because everyone has a place in sport. You can find out more about the Play Well strategy at ausport.gov.au/playwell. This series is produced by Dead Set Studios and hosted by us, Georgie and Libby Trickett.
Sportish and the Australian Sports Commission acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which this podcast was made.
We recognise the outstanding contribution that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples make to sport, and celebrate the power of sport to tell stories and promote reconciliation.